Welcome back to the Wilderness Podcast. Yeah, that means we are back. Yeah, we here. We here, we back, and we got a lot to discuss tonight. The show tonight is called Logically Hating Logic Show. We have it's a lot. It's a lot to talk about because these are the times that we are living in. It's kind of like what's going on presently. When there have been historically there have been so many logical resolutions, so many logical perspectives, so many logical solutions that could have made all of our lives better. But due to the fact that there's a an ultimate despising um apparatus that just keeps haunting us. It just keeps you know tearing this country apart. You know what it is. You know exactly what it is. Racism and the ideological aspects of racism in its entirety. You know what I'm saying? So let me see if I can let me see. I had something to do on this right here. I had to reverse that camera shit. That's what I had to yeah. Yeah, make that look the way it's supposed to. Okay, yeah. So anyway, uh there's a lot to discuss because just get my camera right over here on TikTok. But yeah, there's a lot to discuss because that has deterred and altered, and and people don't understand. Even the fabric and ideology of racism destroys and hurts everybody. But for some reason, due to the fact that some people have a fear and an extreme inferiority complex, it makes it extremely hard for us to get over this created apparatus. And the reason why they know that it's a created apparatus is because that's what they hang their hats on without saying more. But you know what we know what the hats are. So we know what the people hang their hats on. So when you hang your hat on the ideology of mediocrity and only what I say goes, meaning nobody else can have feelings but you, nobody can even exist and have a mindset that, they can't have feelings, they can't be hurt, they can't, not in the presence of the dominant society or the person that's inflicting the pain. So um, why would you be, why would you ever think that the times would come that those times are ending fast. And the reason why these times are ending fast is because of your proverbial past. How have you treated people in the past? Specifically. But it doesn't mean nobody's attacking you or trying to destroy or diminish or annihilate. No, it's just the changing of the times anyway. When there are predicated lies that people have built a fortune and a foundation on with the indigenous class still in place, you know, it's true that when you have seven nations from 1492 to 1776. So anyway, logically hating logic show is going to be filled with about a bunch of twists. Stay tuned with me. So the first whip moment is seeing is believing. So let's let's think about this specifically, right? We know and we have already discovered and understood that you know a lot of people dispel logic and they hang their hats on dispelling logic. That's why they logically dispel logic simply because it suits them. So what the dominant society have set in place is a complete apparatus of a underbelly destructive nature, meaning in has woven itself into the infrastructures. If you look at um well, I say again, the universities in America and how they call them Ivy League. But if you look at the roots of these institutions, you will see that these are absolute institutions of study, but also institutions of mischief, recreating the very fabric of and the ideology of even itself. the deans, the people that buy into the fabric of lying. But also there are a this is one thing that the Europeans have always been well at doing is documenting and destroying and documenting and uh, redistributing and renaming and reclassifying and reorganizing and redistributing because as long as they can shuffle the cards, shuffle the law, shuffle the equation, shuffle the apparatus, shuffle it, everything is a shuffle. See, the problem is the reason why you can't completely just dispel all of it is because that means it will annihilate and never justify your complete subjugation of people until you kept all these records. But these records also are a double-edged sword because whatever you thought you was leaving out, you somehow left in and you completed it and you kept it together in order to, again, justify your indignities. Who does this weird shit? Let me explain. Justifying indignities. All right. Brought a couple more back upstairs. From a scientific perspective, you have, you know, tried to justify your indignities. The mismeasure of man. Here we are. The mismeasure of man. The reason why they call this is a mismeasure of man because these are absolute studies by Stephen A. Gould that actually proves that even the black female child, not even, but the most superior, uh, developed mind, developed body, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, is the black female child. Right now to this very day, she is still genetically superior, mentally and mentally and physically, spiritually above all. Proof. You should check this book out. Since you people practice so much of this um racial hierarchy that thinks that pale skin has to do with anything that's anything dominant, can't be. It's impossible, to be quite honest with you. And if that's the reason why they hide things like this from you. Um, oh gosh, here's the one, the measuring heads. Boy, Ben, this is something, right? Measuring heads. Let's get to yeah, here it is. All of these specifics. Let me give you more of what the book is, what it expounds upon and what it covers. If you have to understand, if you ever would really want to know how we have been studied specifically and intrinsically we have been studied. American polygeny, craniometrology, craniometry. Before Darwin, blacks and Indians are separate inferior species, a shared context of culture, pre-evolutionary styles of scientific racism, monogenism, and polygenism. Louis Agassiz, American theorist of polygyny. Samuel George Morton, um, imperialist and polygynist. The cases of Indian inferior crania americana, crania, uh, guess what? Egyptiaca. The case of shifting black means define tabulations. Measuring heads, Paul Bronco, and heyday of craniology, the allure, Francis Galton. So when I'm telling you these are references, you always have to cite your references, right? You cite your references when people want to know what the hell they're reading, and what you're talking about. You have to understand that there has been extremely intrinsic research about us, black people, measuring bodies. Two case studies: study of emphasis of undesirables and the hereditarian theory of IQ, an American invention. Yeah, an American invention by Alfred Benin and the original purpose of Bennett H. Goddard. Oh, this is scaled. Benin flirts with craniometry and Bennett's scale in the birth of IQ. See, this is all hogwash and trash that was just created. It's pure propaganda and bullshit. Just things, just shit that people make up. And also, they learned and discovered a whole lot of different things, math and texting and Stanford and all of these different type of perspectives. Real era of Cecil Burt, a factory analysis and the reunification of intelligence. The case of Sir Cecil Burt, correlating cases of factor analysis. Charles Spearman and general intelligence. Cecil Burt, the hereditary uh, synthesis. A positive collusion. A positive conclusion, debunking a positive science is learning and debunking uh, biology and human nature, the critique of the bell curve. And see, all of these things is what you don't understand of how they used, and tried to bake different systems into existence, literally, and it was all a disastrous lie. But read this book. This book would cover it all for you. This was published in 1981. Mismeasure of Man is immediately a tale of mastery work, ranking answers of those who would classify people by ranking them according to their supposed genetic gifts and limits. And yet the ideal of innate limits in biology is destined. Dies hard has witnessed an attention devotion to the bell curve, whose arguments and herefore effectively anticipated and thoroughly undermined by Stephen Jay Gould. In this edition, Dr. Drew writes about a substantial new introduction telling how and why he wrote the book and tracing the subsequent history of circumstance of controversy on innateness, rise to the bell curve. Further, he had added 5 essays in to separate the section by the end of the question of the bell curve, in particular on race, racism, biology, determinant in general. Those additions strengthen the claim that this book is to be a major contribution towards deflating pseudo biological explanations of our present social woes. You understand? Present social woes. So this challenges, destroys it, annihilates it, and also diminishes the present social woes about, and diminishing the like I said, the normal cultural roles that are just lies, and to be straight in particular, they're just lies. So that's just how that goes. And if anybody doesn't like it, I have more to share. No worries. It's gonna be one of them nights because I have another a book that shares called Uncivil War. Because these are the type of things that we started to start to immense on ourselves, the struggle between black men and women, and why we should stop adapting certain social woes and norms that they're not even applicable to us. So, I just want to let you know, just this is the preface, you know what I'm saying? And it's going to give you like a preface of what's going on with the book is The March to War, Self-Inflicting Battle Wounds, the past and prologue, the uncivil war condescends in television and televised. Clarence Thomas versus Anita Hill. War heroes, war criminals. Black women speak and black men speak. Couples speak. Finding peace through counseling and selected readings index. So the thing is, the problem with being logically sound within a relationship, it requires work and it requires a give and take. It requires people to have a sense of alignment and adjustments when it comes to even trying to reach one another. And the reason why that's extremely important is because you have to have the history of this person and you have to stay out of your mind when it comes to coming up with a conclusion and assuming things that aren't true, because a lot of times you put your foot in your damn mouth when those things happen. So, um, That's let me see. These are different people, right? Different people in different situations. So it starts out with the office manager from Detroit. Her name is Jacqueline. Of course, this is an alternate name. But in 43, office manager from Detroit has married and divorced 4 times. Her first union ended 4 years before her husband had before both physically and verbally abusive. Her second marriage, lastly, lasted one only a year, but Jacqueline third to a successful pharmacist lasted somewhat longer. It it in the arms of another man, he was eventually to become her fourth husband. Damn. So she found her in the arm. He found him in the arms of another man. That's crazy. He eventually became her fourth husband. Yet 5 years later, they too divorced. Donald's 25 years old, machine operator from Syracuse, New York. He is married to a white woman, but maintains that he did not go uh, out curiously looking for one. The way it looked, Donald's explained it just happened to fall in love with a Caucasian woman. Okay. And this is Denise. She's 47 in Chicago, based on Talent Scout. She has never been married and is not currently involved in a relationship and has not been for some time. She admits to being angry with black men and believes the respect between black men and women is sometimes that needs to be earned. I don't bother. I mean, she says, I don't give a brother or a sister for that matter respect just because they're black. She states, people have to prove themselves worthy of respect. Most so called brothers will screw you over quicker than white people will. John, single, and he's 35-year-old invested banker in New York, has never been married. He also has not dated for over a year because his last relationships, instead of providing for him the comfort and balance, he is seeking only service and increased already high levels of tension and stress in his life. John admits he prefers to date exciting women who are high maintenance and slightly psychotic. Um, he does not, however, feel that this is a major cause to his troubles for the love front. The real problem, he contends, is too many sisters expecting men to pay for all of their sins of their previous boyfriends. Woo! So this is enough. So you're talking about an uncivil war, the struggle between men and women by Alicia B. Washington. I'm going to be reading more of this book, y'all, because we got to discuss a lot of things that, we go through. So these are logically hating logic. These are all the issues that black people have to deal with within on our side of the equation because of, we're not amount enough, and there are a lot of intricacies that exist within us that we have to really, work through. It's called honesty. But let me get to the next one moment. Oh, lies you can tell your mind. So yeah, the lies you can tell your mind is, things like when you believe that you have friends that and some of us we do have a lot. You have friends, you have people that you have people that you deal with, you have people that you uh can somewhat have a go out with, have a good time with. But how many acquaintances do we have that can we really call friends if we really express you know how your life really is and how much you don't express who you really are in some aspects. So how much acting do we put on? How many people do a lot of acting, in relationships? How many people do a lot of acting in, how they're dealing, even with their spouse? So do you spend enough time alone to even be honest with yourself? Some people don't even know who they are for that matter. So let me share another book with you. In the Reason by Dr. Joy DeGruy. There's a lot of this going on here, a great deal of it, because it's a you never take the time to study, you know, um, if you ever take the time, I won't, some of you got some smart people that do listen to the show, and I appreciate you. But, I like to show you different things and how it really does parallel with your life and how you actually, you know, how is the conversation and how do you have the conversation with yourself and be honest with yourself about things that have actually happened to you, and they're perpetuatory too. And then you have some friends of other dynamics, which I'm really proud of, the other, you know um, quote unquote classes of race of people that are getting out here telling the truth and explaining, and how they even have eyes to see. But and it lets you know how many people that attack you and they talk trash about, our actual, it's not our truth, it's just the truth. See, the nasty critiques and the ugly, demeaning behavior that people actually put out, it only confirms the truth. It only confirms the damn truth. It doesn't make it a lie. It makes it absolutely, it validates it. So, you keep doing what you do too, Clip Pimping. But for people that understand, you don't ever in life want to live a life of bondage. Please and understand me. Let me explain to you how you don't want to do that. Dr. Joy DeGru, this is Crimes Against Humanity. Life in bondage. Let's be clear. Bondage is um, antithetical to humanity. Therefore, bonding in any form is abuse. When you when we discuss living enslaved, we are discussing only degrees of abuse. We have actually heard people attempt to justify slavery by arguing that many slaves didn't have it so bad. They claim some were even treated extremely well or better off than people who were destined and left out there to their own devices. All we can say is there's people who are worse of hypocrites, of whom among them would willingly give up their freedom under any condition. Once again, let me perfectly be clear about this. Slavery, by its very nature, is abusive and abhorrent to the human spirit. It was not accident that the state of New Hampshire adopted the motto, live free or die. Freedom means that much to us all. It is detestable that constitutes where written and laws were enacted to develop and maintain an institution of slavery. Slaves had not even the simplest of human rights. They were chattel, defined as movable items of personal property. And as chattel, slave owners were free to do with them as they please. As noted above, slave masters' right to abuse those in their charge were confided to the laws such as Virginia Casual Killing Act in 1705 and its Unlawful Assembly Act in 1680, which, among other things, made it legal to kill a slave who raised his hands against any Christian by being whipped until skin peeled off, being worked to exhaustion day after day, being beaten, being deprived of food and water, being raped repeatedly, being considered less than livestock and treated worse, welcome to life as a slave. But most slaves were whipped, raped, or tortured daily. Most days were relatively uneventful. I've heard people argue, yes, I'm sure that was often the case. So tell me, how many times does a person have to be brutalized to be traumatized? I say once. Just once. Just once. But that was a daily practice from. So I ask of you, please and always treat yourself with dignity, respect, honor. Because do I agree? She's a doctor. She says it. Those are the facts. But they did this to indigenous people. See, as gruesome and grotesque as it absolutely is. It's the absolute truth. And let me explain the book I was going to talk to you about the other night. This is The Issue of Manhood in Black and White, an incisive look at masculinity and social definition of a black man. Says African man, but hey, his name is N. Wilson. The commentary is superb. Let me explain to you this. So, in this book, Understanding Black Adolescence and Male Violence, chapter 1 in the introduction, it talks about origin and impact of adolescence, black on black male violence, white on black violence, community effects, and black male homicide, the psychological after effects of white racism, adolescence crisis in the inner city youth, in the socioeconomic context of inner city youth, sociopathic and psychopathic, black adolescents, masculinity, and antisocial behavior, characteristics and reactionary masculinity, crossing cultural concepts regarding manhood. Make sure my refreshes on pretty good. All male program or schools. Recommendations. We're talking about Black centered rehabilitation, CDC strategies and crime prevention, remedies and reactionary masculinity, training, liberation, and independence, specific attitudes and abilities, communities based strategies in crime prevention, Black American politics and economic crime. And the appendix is organizational strategies and activities to prevent Black male adolescents violence, bibliography, and there's a whole ordeal to this book. Let me get into some examples and let you understand what we why I am really excited about giving you some of these lessons in this book here. Page 73. Okay. In chapter 1, origin and the impact of adolescence and black on black violence. Now, this is Dr. Amos N. Wilson. I love this guy. I've been studying him for years, and he's great. But here it is. The following discussion provides an online delineation of major causes of black on black violence among male adolescents. The scope of the present volume does not permit a full narrative discussing the many variables which confluently determine black on black violence. The outline below it suggests the role of Afrocentrism, cultural curriculum, and possibility in planning alleviating the plague of violence, which is devastating the lives of and futures of large numbers of adolescent black males, vigilating and viable of many, black American inner city communities. The continuing increase of the adolescence of black on black violence, therein the ultimate survivability of both black American and Pan-African communities, the psychodynamic of black on black violence and political economic function in the United States, and the threat of it represents in the viability of black American communities is detailed by the author of the book Black on Black Violence, the dynamic of the black self annihilation and services to white domination. White on black violence. Violence is a form of social interaction, a type of social relationship. It is rooted in a social history and represents a type of proaction and reaction. Relative to that of history, violence occurs in a social, historical, cultural context and cannot be divorced from it. Essentially, social in its origins, nature, and outcomes, criminality and its rates, prevalence, and social locations reflects the socioeconomics, socio-political dynamics as a society in which it is produced. Crime and interpersonal violence does not originate or have a being or social vacuum. They are therefore genetically rooted in society. And society such as American society breeds a very broad variety of extraordinary quality of criminality and violence, where they characterize society as a whole as some identifiable segment of it. Many argue, and justifiably by referring to a criminology society and society which breeds unusual numbers of types of criminals and relatively high levels of crime and violence. Therefore, the origins of black on black violence in America are rooted in the reflection of its social, cultural, economical, political, economical past and contemporary history of America. Black on black violence speaks of primarily to social relations between blacks and through that the ultimate importance but to the nature of complexity in the social relations between whites and blacks in America and that the work and in the world. Black on black violence reflects a very significant extent to a violent origins in America as a nation. The past and contemporary history of the violence interactions between whites, Americans, black Americans, the violence of white Americans directed towards black Americans, both overt and covert, physical and psychological, political, economical, social, and cultural, and the violence that begets the large, measurable portion of black on black violence. So therefore, when you put us in certain social vacuums, we'll be just like anyone else. But we are the most peaceful people in America. So I said I made a statement on TikTok saying Black Americans are the most vibrant people on the planet, and they tend to rush around, sent me all kind of crude and destructive, nasty things that they didn't get violated from, by the way. But I would just let you know that it doesn't phase me, but it shows you, even as I read in here, how that violence, rather, underlayingly, is still there because they allow it. They allow it to happen. But if I decide to defend myself, I get crossed out, banned, something happens to me. So we have to hold ourselves always to an extremely much more higher standard due to existing simply because we're breathing. Yeah. So the failure of social scientists to examine black on black violence and the criminality in the context of white on black violence and white criminal in general has led to a series of misinterpretations of the causes of black on black violence in black community. It has led to the stereotyping of blacks, especially young black males are innately criminal and they need to be dominated and they need for the dominant elements of white America to maintain their pristine self image of perceive themselves and the faultness of superior to blacks who they oppress and exploit on a continuum. I hope you understand. These things happen because people want them to happen, but as soon as times are changing into, ways to where, it's not even logical to even, unalive a person with a weapon when they are another skin complexion. You get my drift? So not saying it's right, and I completely, my heart goes out to those individuals that was unalive for nothing. They didn't do nothing. Uh, they got a whole lot about, but when you didn't put a weapon, you didn't pull a weapon on anyone. You didn't threaten their lives, and you turned away. Regardless if you was a menace or not, you should not have been mutilated. We know we've been how many times we've been us as black Americans, these people here, the aboriginal class of people here have been reclassified, annihilated, mutilated, destroyed, history been ripped away from, taken from, and everything like that. So the thing is, uh, we don't really say much about these things because the most atrocious things ever has happened to us. I mean, seriously. So it's not to say that we like, oh, who cares? No, that's not it. No, it's just like, oh, okay, they killing white people now, or they unaliving allegedly, unaliving white people, which we know is atrocious, but we have been subjugated under these circumstances, since the arrival of Caucasians, so, but nevertheless, we still have to come together with, and I still appreciate the good Caucasian brethren, the Asian brethren, the African brethren, some people that are practicing a high level of humanity and even, standing in the defense of, who we are and completely are educating themselves, and you can't leave them people hanging. You can't not shake their hands. You can't not salute them. You can't not give them appreciation. That's always a proper thing to do. Appreciate people that appreciate you, and that's just worldwide, homie. Like, we American citizens. We still love that. We're American Indians, but we still global. We still like to go to other places in the world. We still like to, show other people love, respect, and we still love to be respectful for ourselves. And that really also gives people the opportunity to know who we are, as far as being a very high culture of people. And the propaganda and the lies that were spewed about us, as far as us being violent and destructive, and no, the majority of Black Americans, how we were raised, we were raised in very strict households. We were raised very strategically to be successful. We were given the tools to operate in this country, and also, if we listened and kind of kept our head down, or kept ourselves out the way, and didn't draw too much attention. If you wasn't no athlete or something like that, you can make something of yourself or go in the military. But everything we do, we are effective, and we make change, and we make people understand that we are here because this is our country. So regardless, I don't think people understand. Again, I would tell you, from 1492 to 1776, that was the First World War. That was the antiquated World War that turned the old world into the new world, because they knew that we are the epitome of the old world, the highest. So why do you think, when you go into this right here, let me see, black people, hold on, I got a book for you that I want to share. Hold on, hold on, got a book for you. All right, this one. I got another one right here for you too. Y'all like references? I always like to give references as well. Check it out. I love to drop references for you, ladies and gentlemen. Of course I do. So let's get into this book. Oh, yeah, here we are. One, Jen Discover. Yeah, here we go. Shit. I gotta get one more in for you. The Arabia, India, yo, yeah, all of that. Layman's terms better. Oh, I can find it in this damn book here. All right. All right. So now we want to go here. In chapter one, America unknown. America unknown to the ancients. That's a lie. So check it out. I want to show you. All right. An accurate description of America, chapter one, America unknown to the ancients. The sea. It takes several delimitations of the countries in which it washes, and the surrounding of the dry lands cut out in the shapes of so many winding bays and creeks and meanderings and inlets, where one must confine and pen into a narrow channel in the straits of uh, Magellan, and hence again soon expediting in the spread of itself into immersions and almost boundless oceans, in which opens into the north and give terminaries of the four regions, earth, and the South and the Asian America, but both, which indeed are by the continent sea extending itself around the universal globe. So this is the importance. It's geography. So this goes about how many people knew about the Americas and why it was so, navigating very ancient, of the Americas and going around Holy Land. Yeah, they was telling us the Northern Sea and how people was, of even Pentecost and trying to get to where nope, 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 nope. Okay. First section one. Storage employers. I ain't read this book in a couple of years. It's been a couple. Okay. Here we go. This is what I want to get to. All right. Hope you guys still with me. Here started from Greek words called the Phoenicians, from their being red or bloody, with the slaughter of all strangers that landed on the coast, but rather in so indeed and called the Phoenicians or the Eritrean or the Isus or Edom, from whom they derived and all of these two words, denominations signifying in Greek red and two last in their Hebrew, Phoenix himself implanted all the countries lying between the rivers Euphrates and the Egyptian city, Pelusium, and afterwards Dametia, and washed the Mediterranean southerly by Egypt and towards the east by the desert, Arabia. The chief city of Ptolemais, otherwise called Akon, Sidon, Arad, Great Cana, Sarapata, Biblias, Badras, Beretheus, and their princes, Tai, formerly situated in the Isles, and since joined the mainland of Alexander the Great. None can disown, but the Phoenicians have everywhere been admired in the seas, and that they are formidable, the greatest princesses. When the Persian king Cambyses came with a vast army against the Carthaginians, he was forced to give others over the design. Because the Phoenicians refused to help him with his fleet, he became allied until the city founded by them. But they are only built Carthage, but strove into Rome, but the emperors of the world, but also famous city Leptus, Antica, Hippo, Adranium in Africa, with Cadiz and Tartessus in Spain. Nay, they spent plantations of the people into the heart of the Iberian and Libya. It would not only amiss to add Curtis with his relation to tell us where every Phoenician came with the fleet, landing their men and subdue whole countries, and by the means spread their colonies over the whole world of the known world. Carthage of Africa, Thebes of Boeotia, and Boeotia and Chaldees near the Western Ocean. Aristotle related that made such rich returns of their merchandise and chiefly of their oil. In Spain, and the anchor pins and the iron ore metal belongs to the ship instead of its metal were silver. But return to discover and disprove the former testimony that the Phoenicians found America. Yes, sir. So you already know what happened. When that happened, this happened. Yeah, this happened. That's when them black folks start telling. Okay, the New World. Christopher Columbus discovered in the Indies in 1492 when the world started, launched a frantic effort to rich effort by rich and powerful men intended to claim for the king and for themselves as much territory as possible in what was to become known as the New World. Didn't I tell you this? Didn't I tell you this? Columbus, who had who secured the titles of Viceroy and Admiral of the Ocean Sea, followed by his expeditions with three more. He brought more than 1,700 settlers to the island of Hispaniola, where he established the capital of the Indies in San Domingo, in which is now Dominican Republic. In 1492 to 1503, ships launched in various ports of Spain and the islands of India. East, hopefuls of gaining their riches and perhaps to import spices, silver, and gold, and from there establish the mines and plantations in a strange new world. To gain additional control, Queen Isabella established Casa de Contraction, the House of Contracts. The House of Contracts in 1503, requiring all ships traveling to or fro Spain and the Indies to first archive permission from the crown. All ships to the New World must be authorized in advance. Began and end Seville. Report to all travelers, including maps and latitudes, and acknowledge that all lands discovered were the property of the crown, and 20% of all riches acquired must be remitted to the king and queen, the king's fifth. And in 1508, the crown added the duties in requiring that all captains and pilots, ship's travelers in the Indies must be certified navigational instruments, trained pilots, and official maps produced by the crown, officially appointing the pilots, cosmologists, and the Casa de Contraction. They also appointed High Court, the Auditioner, to Santo Domingo in 1511. Now that's a conquest for your ass. How you doing, Dominican Republic? Which was responsible for assuming the laws of the crown they obeyed. Assuming the crown because they, that's basically now new conquered lands. So the discovery of La Ferida, Juan Ponce de Leon became the discoverer and governor of La Ferida in the most usual way. He had come to the Indies in Columbus' second voyage, 1493. He later conquered Puerto Rico in 1508 and subsequently became the governor, which he built empires in the states, empire of a state. In 1506, Christopher Columbus died, and his son Diego undertook a long legal quest to obtain the title of viceroy for himself. He won, becoming the viceroy in the Indies in 1512, but only in the islands that his father discovered. He immediately removed Ponce de Leon and the governor of Puerto Rico. Ponce de Leon went to Spain and bowed to the unfairness of his friend, King Ferdinand. The king offered him a constellation prize, allowing him to discover whatever he could find north of the known island of the Indies. Once claiming the island, and king would appoint him the governor independent of Viceroy Domingo Columbus. They both knew that at least one island, Bimini, existed, and there might be others too. Ponce de Leon accepted the deal and returned to Puerto Rico, sailing to discover new islands in 1513. So that was a conquest for gold. You just heard it. Spanish exploration of La Ferida and the mainland in 1513 to 1543. You have to know your history, my people. That's the show. I appreciate you understanding how. No, that's not the show. That's the book. That's the book. That's not the show. I got more whip moments for you guys. Hold tight. Next whip moment. The more lies you tell. Oh, no. The rejection of the truth. The rejection of truth has its consequences. Yes, the rejection of truth does have its consequences. See, people really need to slow down and stop communicating off emotions and what you feel and what you think because what you should know is the fact that We all are here in the Americas, but the reason why you are here is if you know your story, you should stop lying about your story. Stop trying to manipulate the facts about who you are and what you are. You understand that there was a Spanish presence that's been in the Americas, and they still have that same psychological conquistador type of mindset, meaning they don't like black people. So I would say that some Spanish people, even within the Spanish speakers today, the Argentinians, we know, we understand, we get it, we understand why. And then when you have the Afro Latinos, they're caught in the crossfire because, even in Brazil and a lot of places in Latin America, there's you know, they're sexually fluid. So, they kind of like fuck between the line anyway. So that's how they get down. But one person is always on the bottom, still in that type of, apparatus, which means sometimes that's why some women are so, docile, so to speak. It's really weird, and it's a very, in some facets, pretty diabolical the way they behave and how they get down in the Latin community. Well, they're pretty freaky, to say the least. Very, but it's kind of diabolical too because they're very like racist and very demeaning and um uh they like they on some like real domineering type, like smut a bitch out type of behavior. Like it's real, they on some weird shit for real, so that's just how some people is, man. But that's how they get down. Let me see. Yeah, the more lies you tell, the more whoop your mind gets. Because if you think about when you tell lies, you have to tell another lie to tell another lie to tell another lie to tell another lie. So that must be frustrating, I'm quite sure, because when people usually get caught in lies, they get real defensive, real they act nasty with other people. They're real despicable. They and then they can just give you the answer kiss because it's like when they try to, get over on you or fool you and you caught them in their little lies and shit, they become even nastier, more despicable. So very untrustworthy, very undermining people that do shit like that. And it's real disheartening as humanity in the state of humanity too, because it's kind of becoming even more prevalent because people try to do their best to mask their fucked up intrinsic ways, and they act as if somebody is supposed to be okay with that, and you can't really sever yourself with it because it's some shit they need to own, and you can't keep oppressing upon people your nastiness in accepting me or accepting a person or anyone to think that's supposed to be acceptable or at any cost. So yeah, let's get to the next moment. All right. So yeah, learning towards no, yeah, leaning towards personal gains is an unfair exchange if others have to suffer. Yeah, because that means you're a selfish ass person, Yeah, that means you're a selfish person. That means you would like some people would even take a job or even put themselves in a predicament to just be a habitual liar. Be and just the logic behind them taking the job is I have to take care of my family, not giving a shit who they hurt or who they demean or who you annihilate because that comes with the territory of the reason why you took the job under those circumstances. But when it comes to you, somebody supposed to feel sorry for you or you're a thief, but you're doing it because you are under circumstantial situations that you say that you created when you could have walked away. Ah, some people bring them coaches with them. They bring the shit with them. Um, when you learn the systems and dynamics of how an apparatus works, you're gonna put your overlay culture on it too. So that's the same thing that comes from people that come to the Americas. When you figure out how to play or the play, you put your play in motion. That's Joe. That's I guarantee you, if you took their play away, it wouldn't be so many people coming to America. If you had to get it out the mud like Black Americans had to, the Aboriginal that nobody gave us anything, and everything that we have ever had, they have taken, and we had to rebuild. But I guarantee you, it would not be so many people coming to the Americas if you did not have a hand out. So when people come here from other countries trying to run government here, I'm not voting for you, and I advise all indigenous Black Americans to not vote for foreigners. We need to position ourselves in positions to vote for people that look like us. And the reason why I'm saying that is because of two reasons. It's not xenophobic. It's stating the facts that if you don't know the history of this country, and if you don't have any empathy and sympathy, if you don't have any knowledge, if you don't have uh, uh, any knowledge of all of our plight, our struggle, our history, our mastery, our mystery, if you have no interest in that, and you're from somewhere else, you cannot get our vote, man. We're done. It's over with. You ain't getting our vote. We're just gonna, so I would ask us, the younger generation, run for office. Put yourself in a position to run for office. Study political science. Study the tones of, and this is not a political show, but I'm talking about how economically, spiritually, ethically, and we have to cleanse ourselves of outside influences in this country. And I would advise everyone to do so because when you keep on putting out propaganda, I advise the white community to stop, stop while you're ahead of putting out all of this foolishness and this propaganda. And when you have people that look like you are telling the truth on you, you're the biggest hypocrite on the planet right now. So I would advise you to just stop communicating about other people as a whole because you got enough coming your way. Trust that. So anyway, I mean, to be quite honest with you, that's you know, it's just your reveal of your reality. The reveal of your reality when you can't walk around and treat people and act as if you've been a truth teller when you're not. You gotta really you gotta hold your you gotta hold your you better hold your perspective together. And I advise you to just stop trying to be um a pillar of anything. Tell the truth and be a good person. That's what I advise any person to do. But tell the truth. We can all do a better job and do a job of that for sure. The thing is, the reason why I put out a lot of my the clips of my ancestry because I love when Black Americans go out here and do the same thing. I love when you go out here and you discover who you really are and you having them harder conversations with your ancestors. Because logically, that's the only thing that makes sense. We have been told illogical stories, situational traps. I'm giving you pieces of truth, letting you show there's a plethora of great, great, great books out here that tell us who we are. And shout out to Chase McGee. Check it out. That's one. And for the white guys out there, the other ones. What they tell you? Shout out to brother Chase. So let me read this one for you right quick. 19 white men who admitted there were indigenous black people in the Americas. Let's go to the middle. I know y'all know some of these folks. Theodore Taylor Johnson was an explorer, New Jersey, who sailed to California in February 1849. He later published Signs of the Gold Region, which was first published to relate authentic personal experiences of California's gold fields. Johnson described the voyage to California, Panam, um, Panama crossing, in perspective in the Coloma Valley. He also writes in his return to San Francisco in the hopes of finding work at the end of the spring. And during the trip, Johnson declared that he was called the Digger Indian. He was called the Digger Indian. Indians in California who received the name based off the holes they dug in the ground to eat certain roots, Johnson said. Their complexion is dark mahogany and they often nearly black. Their face is round and square, with features approximately near the African than the Indian. While enormously mouthed, normals, nearly flat hair, straight, black, coarse, as they are horse manes, but without gloss, growing into growing often over their lower foreheads and small gleaming eyes, complete in description of these revolution specimens of humanity. Johnson Theodore and Samuel Royal Curtis, California and Oregon, or Slight in the Gold region in the signs by way J.B. Lippincott. The Digger Indian Squat published by Lawrence in Houseworth circa 1860 to 1870. Here she is. Okay. Got some pretty good illustrations there, fella. Also, he dives into, Herbert Joseph Spindon and talks about the archaeology and a family and Muscogee people living along the Principalca River in Nicaragua, published in 1957, 1961. So that's North and South America. Yeah, little fella did some pretty good work here. America Called. Yeah, he got some pretty good work here. Check this book out, man. Support this young fella. Author these couple of books. There's a couple more. There's a lot of books I want to share about authors and people that are very excited about, what was here, what is the Americas. This is pre-Columbia America also, right here by this author. Red Silver Fox Thunderbird, Revealing America's Dark Skin in the Past, Volume 1 and 2. And it's about the Olmec Heartland, the Olmec Throne. Oh, I love this book. This is why I love reading this book, because it says the La Vinta complex is believed to have been in its grandeur from 1500 BC to 1200 BCE and consists of several conical and platform mounds alone and have been the throne for more rulers and and monuments consisting of three colossal heads. The centerpiece, La Venta, in the Great Pyramid, the Pyramid Mound stands today over 3,000 years before being built in the 110 foot high with a diameter of 459 feet, and it covers an area of 2 square miles and the largest mound found in North America. The Inter-Levanta complex was built 8 degrees west of north in the same pyramid of Giza of Egypt. And also, let me remind you of my grandfather, Ramesses III, the father of ancient America. So, this is people logically hating logic, because this is logically the truth. And everything else you heard is a myth. So let me get. I think that's the last book moment, y'all. I think we done for the night. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think we covered it all. I think we did what we needed to do. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning in to the Will Is podcast. I appreciate you so much. I love you. So make sure you share, like, subscribe, and tune in when you can. Check out my old shows, man. Check out the videos. Check out the always tune in, go under my lives. When you want to watch the shows, tune in, go under my lives and tune in. And that's how you get to the Wilderness Podcast. How you watch all of my shows, on YouTube, the Wilderness Podcast on YouTube. Also, go to the wilderness podcast.com. Check out some merch. If you want to pick up some merch, get some merch if you want to. think you should, man. Support the show, man. Support me. I thank you. Thank you for thanking me. Thank you so much. Anyway, yeah. Check it out. That's the end of the show. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I love you, and I got to get up out of here. So, thank you. Thank you again. And remember, this is my favorite part of the show. The will is yours. Be cool. Be learning. Stop teaching yourself bullshit sometimes, man. It's just not worth it. Anyway.